if you're trying to create custom clay recommendations, you're going to need to know what the company does. Otherwise, you can't create good recommendations, right? For those who don't really know how clay works, it's essentially this massive spreadsheet that allows you to enrich prospects, whether it's people or companies, find more data on them. And the point being, we have each one of these copies written out already. So when we go into clay, we know exactly what we're going to be building out.
Without further ado, I'm just going to hand the microphone to Patrick.
There we go. So quick overview. I wanted to go through the copy and the flow first before actually going through the clay table. I figured that would give you a good background. I always work from my copy first, so I know what personalizations to build out in clay. I think it'll make a lot more sense when I actually go through it. But the flow here is we're going to send a LinkedIn Connect request. If they accept the Connect request, we're going to send this flow. So voice message, LinkedIn message, email. If they don't accept our Connect request, we're sending 4 emails, so like a straight email flow. The copy's down here. It's not super important to go into the details of it. The point is I'm pitching clay in this copy, and each one of these variables is a different interchangeable variable we're going to be creating within clay. And some of them are very basic, obviously, first name, company name, right? But then some of them are a lot more complex. For example, this is a list of custom use cases that this particular company, based on their description, can use clay for. Down here, we actually have a custom image. I'll show you that at one point that we're creating with the prospect's profile picture in it. This is the line outlining kind of like news about the company and summarizing what the news is. So again, there's some really like complex variables coming into play here. But the point being, we have each one of these copies written out already. So when we go into clay, we know exactly what we're going to be building out. So now I'm going to go and share my actual clay table. Adam, just nod if you can see it. We're good. Cool. All right, so you can't really see it because I have the column hidden, but there's a webhook coming from RB2B flowing straight into this clay table. So this is just a list of people who have visited my website as of recent, and they're all populated in here. And a lot of this is automatically populated by RB2B. So their first name, last name, email, their title, their LinkedIn URL, all of this RB2B gave me. So I didn't even need to do anything for this. It automatically was imported into the table. But obviously, there's some more information we're going to need to run some of these more complex flows. For example, the one giving them clay recommendations. And for those who don't really know how clay works, it's essentially this massive spreadsheet that allows you to enrich prospects, whether it's people or companies, find more data on them, and then use that data to create AI personalizations in your email. So instead of writing out one email at a time, manually and doing all the research manually, Clay just does it automatically for you, and it automates the entire process end to end. Which is like, obviously, the point is I'm pitching clay in this copy, and each one of these variables is a different interchangeable variable. Can somebody mute themselves? I don't know. Anyway. All right. Don't hear it anymore. We're good. Let's keep going. So the first thing that we're going to do is decide whether this company is actually a company we want to reach out to. So for clay, we're obviously pretty much looking for B2B companies exclusively, and we're looking for decision makers within that B2B company. There's no point in reaching out to somebody who can't make decisions. So we have this AI prompt within Clay that allows you to determine whether the person, based on the company's description and their title, are a B2B company and they're a decision maker at that company. So it automatically classifies them. And usually, I didn't want to do it for this flow because I wanted you to see all the rows, but usually we'd have it so if they're not a decision maker or they're not B2B, we don't run any more of these rows afterwards. There's no point in dealing with them, right? So as you can see here, we actually got the emails of a lot of the people in our B2B. They provided us their business email, but some people we didn't. There's a couple that are missing. So next, I just use another integration within Clay, and these are all just little columns you can add. You add them all through this panel right here. So if you want to find their email, you just type in email. You can find it that way. So I found integrations that found their email and fulfilled all the missing emails of people I wanted to reach out to. So people that didn't have emails over here, I used it to find their email right here. And then we have both columns kind of combined into this final email column. So now we're moving on to the actual personalizations. Again, this is a pretty complex table, so I don't think it's like worth going kind of into the nitty gritty of it, but I'll kind of just tell you what each one of these columns are doing. And I think it'll give you a general idea of what Clay can do. So first thing we're doing is we're finding recent LinkedIn posts from the company. So we use this integration to find the 5 to 10 most recent LinkedIn posts the company put up. Then I used AI to figure out whether any of those posts talks about AI. So I figured if a company's using AI in some capacity, they might be interested in using Clay for their prospecting because they already are familiar with AI. They know how powerful it is, right? So you can see here that it'll pop out the text of the post that mentions AI in some way here. Next,
Okay.
I use another AI integration to actually give them a congratulatory first line based on that news. So, for example, congrats on the SmartCat templates launch, right? Congrats on launching Persephone Pro, which I'm assuming is an AI tool of some kind. The point being, I decided to write a first line based on whether they have a post about AI. Next, I have these series of check marks. Each one of these check marks is pretty much telling me whether they fit a certain intent signal. So, for example, if the person started their job within the last 3 or 4 months, this checks. If they're hiring for open sales roles, this checks. And of course, if they don't match any of them, there's a backup right here. From there, there's some AI integrations to ensure that the company and job title names sound normal in an email. If you send out an email and you're like, hey, I saw you work at Apple LLC, they're going to immediately close the email. That's not important at all. Like, who's going to read an email that they know was written by AI or templatized, right? So we want to make sure that the company names and the job titles they sound normal. It sounds like you're saying them in an email. It sounds like you're actually writing the email and sending it to the prospect, right? So we have these AI pretty much make these sound normal. From there, we have another AI integration, just going through different ways that the prospect can use Clay based on their company description. So it's a lot to read. Pretty much what I'm telling the AI is, I'm going to give you a description of Clay. I'm going to give you a description of this company. Give me 3 bullet points as to how Clay can help this company. And you can see it pops them out right here. So each one of these, depending on who the person in the company is, has a different series of recommendations as to how Clay can help that company automate certain processes within their business. So automate lead generation, integrate with CRM tools, utilize advanced analytics for Pure Care Home, which I guess is one of the companies we were reaching out to. From there, we decided to find some recent news on the company, use that in the first line. So congrats on the $1.5 million funding round, congrats on the Good Hill Hunting launch, and you'll see what this all looks like in an actual message in a second. And then probably the most complicated aspect of this table being we decided to create a kind of an interesting image based on the person's profile picture to pretty much just show that Clay can customize images for prospects. So I pretty much used the Zapier flow connected to a custom image tool. You can see that there's this Clay user of the month template that I created. And this cat is just like the variable in this case. And I, in short, created custom images of each one of the prospects I reached out to automatically using this Zapier flow. Let me know if you can't see this, but ideally you can. So each one of these people's profile pictures is being pasted into this like Clay user of the month frame. And it's sending it back to this Clay table right here. So now I have a custom image that I'm sending out to every single person automatically with their face in it, and I'm not touching it at all. It takes me no time to build. So lastly, after all of that craziness, hopefully you have a general idea of how this works. And also, I saw somebody ask as her deliverability. Yes, I wouldn't recommend doing it at high scale, but for me, there's only 35 rows, so I'm like, I can send it fine without any problems. Like if you're sending out hundreds of these, don't do images, don't do links, but you're fine if you're doing it with like 35 people. Anyway, after that, we connected to this tool called Log Growth Machine. If you guys could mute yourselves, I can still hear sound happening. Lily, I think it's your, yeah, there we go. We're good. So anyway, Log Growth Machine is a multi-channel messaging campaign sequencer. So you send messages with variables to Log Growth Machine and it allows you to send out several of them at once. Some of you have probably heard of it. So for example, you use Smart Lead for email, you use HeyReach for LinkedIn, but Log Growth Machine is really good for multi-channel campaigns. So you can see I've built out this campaign right here. And I know this is kind of nuts and I'm probably going kind of fast. So if you have any questions, obviously just ask afterwards. There's a lot going on, but Log Growth Machine is just this flow that pretty much you can follow it pretty easily. We're visiting their profile. We're connect requesting with them. If they accept the connect request, we wait 30 minutes and send them a series of these messages. If they don't, we send them a series of emails like this. In short, I'm sending all of these variables that I've created in this Clay table, and you can see there's quite a few variables. Like there's all of these intro lines, there's lines referencing the news, there's Clay use cases. We're sending all these variables to log growth machine, and we're building out these messages one by one. So I'll show you what a message looks like first. So it says, hey, first name, figured I'd follow up from that potentially cringe voice message, which is the one I'll show you in a second. I send them a custom voice message with the different ways you can use Clay to automate systems within company name. And then here is a list of custom ways you can use Clay. So if we preview this, here you go. Hey, Kayla, figured I'd follow up from that with a few different ways to use Clay to automate systems within PureCare. And then here's those 3 ways you can use Clay within PureCare Home. And then pretty much just saying I'll build a demo for any one of these systems live for you. So like, as you can tell, it's just inputting these variables into the messaging for each one of the messages we've sent. And we have a lot of them. I mean, we have 4 or 5 emails that we're sending with a bunch of different variables in them, as well as LinkedIn messages. And then there's also a voice message. So this is kind of crazy. I'm not very convinced that AI voice is there yet. Like, I don't think it's good enough to send out a fully AI generated voice message and have it actually sound convincing. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know if I am. I would love to hear about some tools that can do it correctly. But the growth machine, I think agrees with me to an extent, and they've decided to have this thing where you can create a semi-personalized message, right? So you'll probably be able to detect it a little bit, but only the person's first name is AI generated in the voice message. The rest of it is completely like pre-recorded by me. And this sends as an actual LinkedIn voice message, not like as like an MP3 file. Like it seems like you're recording this message and sending it to them. And this is proven to, and I spoke to the log growth machine founder, and he said this is proven to increase positive response rates relative to LinkedIn messaging. So I was like, why not add it? You know, we're doing a lot of high positive response rate activities right now. We might as well just throw it in there. So anyway, I'll play it for you real quick. Just the beginning is really the important part, but you can listen for the AI generated part.
Hey, Bryce, just came across your LinkedIn profile.
So you can see, like, I didn't record it super well, but the point being, I didn't say, hey, Bryce, that was AI generated. So for every person's first name, it's going to change based on who you're reaching out to. And yeah, so from there, again, it's just following these workflows with all these different integrations. It's sending out the custom picture in one of the messages. In general, it's just this really effective, really complicated, but super, super high positive response rate multi-channel growth campaign. And I know that was kind of a quick run through. I just figured there's a lot to cover, but again, super open to any questions, and I'll check the chat for them as well.
Okay, I'm gonna try to MC these questions. So first of all, that was really fucking dope. But like it was a lot to take in for sure. So okay, question number 1. Brian, can you unmute yourself and ask the question that you asked the chat? Okay, if that doesn't work, then his question was, what is a tool called for multi-channel campaigns? I think it was, yeah, what is it?
Log growth machine. Like think just growth machine with LA in the front of it. That's it.
Yeah. Los Angeles growth machine.
Bingo. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then question number 2, Dean. Do you want to ask?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you already were using HeyReach and Smart Lead, whether you've thought of a way to kind of get to this same workflow without using log growth machine.
Yeah, so the reason I would use HeyReach and Smart Lead combined instead of log growth machine is only if like because when you're sending out messages like LinkedIn messages and emails with log growth machine, you're kind of throttled. You can only send out maybe 100, 150 emails a day, probably less LinkedIn messages a day, right? I would say it'd be a lot more difficult in Clay to build out this with both HeyReach and Smart Lead reaching out to the same person and having them both be synchronized. That's why I'd recommend log growth machine. It's just significantly easier, especially for inbound led outbound campaigns, like just a lot easier. In short, it's possible. It's just very hard to integrate everything within Clay, and sometimes more of a headache than would even be worth it. I would just recommend using this. I would totally use HeyReach for just LinkedIn though, and I would totally use Smart Lead for just email. But both, I would definitely say this tool.
Awesome. Okay, so Amit, can you ask? I mean, you made a statement. Can you ask it though? Because I'm sure Patrick can elaborate on it. Amit Tripathi. I will read it. I really want to know about the personalizing with like names and company URL, much more related to this.
Yeah. So I can kind of do a quick like just overview of what personalization in Clay looks like. So I would never recommend in AI's current state to write a full email with AI. So instead of having AI write the entire email, we create what's called variables within the email. So when we're writing copy, we figure out ways in which we can personalize it in a way that's relevant and adds value to the prospect. And then we input those variables within the copy. From there, we go into Clay. And you have to think to yourself, every personalization I build out is going to have data to back it. So, for example, if you're trying to create custom Clay recommendations, you're going to need to know what the company does. Otherwise, you can't create good recommendations, right? So, the way you have to think of it is every personalization needs data. So, we use data enrichments within Clay to find the data behind those personalizations. And then we use AI to write those personalizations using the data that we found. Also, the chat's so right. That was quite the sneeze. So, yeah, in short, you build out those personalizations within Clay by just finding data to back your personalization. So, for example, we use this find recent news integration within Clay to find news on the company. Then we had AI with this information write out a personalized line based on the news about the company. So, yeah, maybe I could have done a more simple flow and it would have made a bit more sense. But yeah, in short, I'm just doing this several times within the table, like finding data and then going ahead and building out the personalization for it afterwards.
Sweet. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of like your voice note. It was like, that part was AI. The rest wasn't. So, all right, Carlos Sanchez. Hi, guys. I have a question, Adam. Ask away, my friend.
Hey Adam, what's up?
What's up?
All right, what's his name here? Patrick.
Patrick.
Appreciate you putting this together. So I'm just starting brand new with Clay, and of course this is amazing. I think you've optimized this to the max. This looks very cool. And for someone who's a beginner in this, I essentially have 2 weeks. Well, I have like 4 days to set up a campaign, and of course I want to maximize that campaign, and I'm going to use Clay. I already love RB2B. And for someone like that, what variables would you consider without having to go absolutely insane on the variables? What are the main variables you would consider that still would produce a much more effective campaign without having to, having a huge learning curve?
Yeah, for sure. So the way I would point for doing something like that is what I call intent signals. I'm sure you've heard about, the phrase on LinkedIn or something. It's kind of all the rage now, but it's a really easy way to create custom first lines based on certain attributes within the business. So I actually have something, I think, right here. These are all intent signals, all these checkboxes. I would use just one intent signal for your campaign. If you're starting, don't go crazy. But let's say, for example, you put a list of 500 companies in Clay and you run this open roles integration. And you find maybe out of these 500 companies you have in Clay, 200 of them have open jobs. That's a really easy way to personalize your campaign because now instead of having to create this whole crazy AI variable and do all this prompting, you can just get that list of 250 companies or 200 companies that have open jobs and just send them a first line saying, hey, I saw company names open jobs and figured I'd reach out. Right. So like I would use the data and just ignore the AI part and just segment your list a little bit. So like if they have open jobs, create your own little list with those people who have open jobs and create campaigns for them. Right. So yeah, this is like one of the craziest Clay tables. Like if you're starting out, don't try to do this. But the reason I wanted to show you a table like this is just to show you kind of the possibilities. But when you're actually just starting out, maybe create one or two variables and just try to connect them to Smart Lead using Clay. Just be like, can I send the first name to the campaign and does it work? If that works, you're like, okay, cool. Maybe I can send company name and maybe I can use AI to make the company name sound normal, right? Like take baby steps. And there are a lot of resources available both on Clay's website, on my LinkedIn, on Eric Nowoslawski's YouTube, on Clay's YouTube that can help you figure out Clay a little bit more.
Hey, Patrick, can you drop this Clay table? Are you comfortable sharing this or is this not shareable?
Yeah, man. I'll templatize it. I'm for the
Can-
people like that.
Okay, so I'm going to. Oh, can you literally do this right now? Can you drop it in the
Oh, I can
chat?
do this live. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're gonna drop that in the chat right now. I'm gonna take a question from LinkedIn while you're doing that. Do you know any tools for multi-channel prospecting that include Instagram and email at the same time?
I need to double check. I don't think Growth Machine does Instagram. I think they just do Twitter. The problem with Instagram is it's just super sensitive to outreach tools. And so I don't think many of the serious players in the game touch it. In short, I don't know of any unless Growth Machine does one. I can just check real quick. I mean, it's not very hard to figure that out. Let's see.
And then while you're looking, I love making you multitask. What's the name of that tool to customize images again?
This is called Dyna Pictures. And so this is something I didn't even want to walk. I didn't even want to walk through this part because this part is like as complicated as it gets for Clay. I just wanted to show you, hey, cool, I made a fancy custom picture.
Yeah, it can be done, right? Like
It can be exactly. It can be done. Pretty much what I'm doing, in short, for those who are interested, is I created this template within Dyna Pictures. This little cat image is just a placeholder, obviously being replaced by the person's profile picture. After that, I'm using Zapier. I'm sending this information, the person's profile picture. I'm pretty much sending the person's profile picture to Zapier using this little integration, sending it to Zapier. It's creating the image in Dyna Pictures, and then it's sending that Dyna Picture image to Clay. And then I'm looking up that image in Clay, which is right here, and I'm just putting in here. So again, it's too much to there's no way I can explain it in a way that will make sense, like in depth, but that's kind of how I'm doing it. So in short, use Dyna Pictures, you can do it, and you can create custom images.
So guys, I just realized that we could do a hand raise, which would be effective in question asking. So Brooks, can you ask your question?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Patrick, for putting this on. I've got a two-part question. The first is, have you guys come up with a workable strategy where, with the volume of eyeballs you and Santosh are getting on your profile content, have you been able to connect any of this tech stack to people who've either visited your profile or people who've liked or commented on the posts, and then bring that in to some kind of an outreach engine like this, where you can say at scale, hey, thanks for liking, thanks for engaging, and then personalize some of the stuff, maybe based on their profile or their website?
So I've alluded to this. So I think next week or the week after, no, next week, Santosh is going to present on the mechanics of growth. Everybody should come to that. It's the most inspiring presentation I've ever heard in my life. So do that. The week after, I'm going to present on this weird LinkedIn journey I've been on. Part of it is this inbox management thing that we have going on. I work with this guy named Alec Paul. He's got a part as a consultant. He doesn't ghostwrite, but he helps with sort of guiding our strategy, managing the calendar, etc. He has a guy named Kyle that he works with that is running this like semi-automated inbound machine off of our content. What typically happens is, and they work with 10 different guys, kind of doing the CEO, SaaS people, kind of doing a similar strategy. You post, you get inbound connection requests, you accept the inbound connection requests in your ICP, drop a little like what got your attention message to have a message history, wait 60 days, then go try to book a demo, and you're a celebrity by that time because this person's been reading all of your content. And it's an insanely high demo book rate. We had this weird explosion happen with me and Santosh where we kind of didn't even get to that. And we've been very specific on what types of action we're trying to have occur in this LinkedIn profile. This is a weird thing to say, but like there's been so much that's been inbound that we haven't even gotten to the net. We haven't even gone through my inbound connection requests and looked for ICP people to connect to. Like it's been kind of too easy to get, like, for instance, super high value, Series B and beyond, marketing leaders on the phone to like talk about what we should build for our B2B. So long story short, it is possible. We haven't done it. Patrick may have an answer about whether you can pull this into Clay and action it somehow. I'm not really sure, but how we're doing it with all the flow going throughout, because we'll do stuff like, I'm sure you guys have seen this. It's like, some kind of close, and it's like DM me if, right? And then they'll take the inbound DMs and like kind of like segment them into high value and low value. High value gets put on a call, low value gets put on a wait list, something like that. But it's somewhat manual, and it's all going through LinkedIn, and like we're not prospecting over email from LinkedIn engagement. It's two separate things right now. I think at some point as we get more sophisticated, we'll marry the two, but that's what we're doing. Patrick, is there a way to pull LinkedIn engagement into Clay?
Yes. So you can't do it with everything, but with post likers, you can do it. With post commenters, you can do it. With your followers, you can do it. Use Phantom Buster. Very easy website. Just download use Phantom Buster, use the Phantom that scrapes likers or commenters or followers. Download the CSV. And if you import it into this template, I mean, in theory, if everything's connected, it could just run the entire thing and you can outreach everybody. I did this with followers. I've worked with a couple like LinkedIn influencers who just like hit me with their entire follower list, and I just like made a campaign with their whole follower list. It's obviously super high conversion. So I'd recommend doing it. I would recommend doing low volume though, and just being careful with it because
and by the way, Warmly does this to us. Somebody put this in the chat, like Warmly loves, when we post about this stuff and like going to the people and being like, by the way, we do person level website visitor identity also. And then they get them on a demo and try to sell them a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm not totally sure how well it works, but people love forwarding us the emails. So it's definitely being done. And I'm sure it's being done through Phantom Buster. Okay. Jacob Turner, what is your cue?
All right, thanks so much. Hey, Adam, hey, Patrick, appreciate the information. My question was around having fail safes. In this particular case, a lot of data, a lot of interfaces between systems, and then I imagine people as well interfacing with those systems. So in my thoughts, and I'm a former outreach employee and I've worked in sales engagement for quite a while, and I've seen this happen with customers who have integrations where the variables are actually incorrect, and then we end up sending out emails to customers that say, hi, unknown, right? Or hi, news line information, right? And so I'm just curious about what those fail safes are and if they're built in, or if that's something that just you have to create around, how how you're using the systems to actually connect that data.
Yeah, for sure. So for an auto run campaign like this one, where the person's being imported automatically into Clay and the whole thing is running, what I would usually do is actually have a click to run. So instead of having it auto run, I would go and I don't know where, I think it's right here. Instead of having it auto update, I would turn this off and then you just click each one. The reason for that being, like, unless you have an obscene amount of web traffic, you could probably just every day go and review these messages and make sure that they're working properly. With a larger sample size, say an outbound campaign where you don't feel like clicking play on every single one of them, I found that if you test it for 50 rows and it's working perfectly fine, there's a pretty low likelihood you're going to be sending anything too egregious. And if it is, like, you're likely not, it's not a huge deal. It's not going to be like super common. So I usually just do I run it on a relatively large sample size to make sure it's working properly. Once I find that, I go ahead and run it. I will say though, the two things to be so careful about are if you're ever referencing LinkedIn posts or if you're ever referencing news, because imagine saying, hey, congrats on, going bankrupt, right? Like it can go bad. And I've had this happen. It's a horror story, but not for that. But I luckily before I didn't send the email out. Thank goodness. I check all my emails before sending them to make sure they're good. But I one time accidentally was like, pretty much the first line was, hey, I saw your post about blank and I wanted to reach out. And I accidentally, the AI wrote one that was like, I saw your post about like like childhood cancer awareness and wanted to reach out, and it's like selling a SaaS business, and you're like, well, this is just horrible. Like that's like you don't want to use that as your first line. So anyway, be sure to watch out when you're doing references of news or posts. Everything else, well, you probably be fine. Like job openings, stuff like that. You can format it pretty well in Clay.
Just one other thing around that. I imagine that these are like your cream of the crop leads, right? Because the signal, the intent that you're finding through all this data, you're like, okay, these are the people we want to put through a manual first step, write the email 80-90% or the message or whatever it is. And then, like you said, make it semi-automated where you can just click that play button and then execute and review the email, send it off. Takes 30 seconds instead of 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I think like if you are hesitant to just have it on auto run, because again, these are really high intent like clients that you or like prospects that you want to make sure to close, I would just have it, yeah, again on like semi-auto. Clay doesn't have to be completely automated. I made it completely automated for this for Wow Factor, but like you can make it semi-automated if you want to. It's kind of your choice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Next up we got Kyle Brownbridge. Kyle Brownbridge, what do you got?
Hey, Adam, just a quick question for you. The RB2B visitor identification, that's currently only for USA website visitors. Is there any plans to make that UK, Europe? And if not, is there another way of piping these leads or identification?
So yeah, it unfortunately it is compliant in the US to do what needs to be done to get down to the person level. It is not compliant with GDPR. So sadly, we can't do the person level stuff. We're going to add a reverse IP lookup, which everybody already has probably, which will get companies in Europe, but that's not that exciting because what you really want is the person. So I wish I had a better answer to that. Some people are like, what about Australia? I don't think the necessary publisher networks exist in Australia to make this possible. It's necessary to do it. So until further notice, that particular part of it, the person level part, is only going to be US. You will hear from me if that is not the case, but GDPR is not changing, sadly. I personally don't think that the US law will change in a way that will make this not compliant. And I talked to a lot of people who are involved in this legal scene. You know, they want you to use cookie banners. They want disclosure, implicit consent collection, and opt-out. And if you're under 25 million in revenue, the California stuff doesn't apply to you. So all of that is interesting knowledge. And yeah, that's my semi-long-winded answer on that. Okay, Jihad, what is up? Iqbal.
Hey y'all, thanks for doing this webinar. I've been drinking the Clay Kool-Aid for a while now, a little bit, and RB2B I just installed yesterday, so it's been awesome kind of integrating everything together. One thing that I have in my mind is how do I automate the whole thing so it's like I'm getting rows generated and outbound created through whatever I'm using downstream. How do I just make it continuous? That's maybe something you covered earlier in the talk, but I wasn't there. But yeah, how do you automate the adding of rows to Clay and then automate it downstream as well?
Yeah, so RB2B and Clay have like this native integration now in which you can just get the webhook, and then when you create a Clay table, you just click create new table and then go to import data from webhook. And when you put that RB2B webhook in there, it will automatically upload every person that visits your site. I mean, obviously the ones that RB2B can detect into Clay. And then everything else in Clay auto runs. So there's no need to worry about it. Like it all automatically runs by default. So that's not too hard to do.
Okay,
Yes,
got it. And that's only, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. It's just like you get that URL, and then on the RB2B user interface, you just hit the Clay integration, and it has a little form field for you to drop that webhook in. You hit go, and it starts doing it.
Okay, awesome. You can't add it retroactively to the table, correct? You have to do it when you create the table.
No, you can.
Yes. I'm pretty actually you might be able to do it retroactively.
Yeah, you can add it. You can add it. You can add a source to a table that you've already created.
Yeah. Import data from webhook.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool stuff. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Sweet. Thank you very much. Next, Nat. What is up, Nat? Nat A.
Yes, hi, I'm Natalie. Thank you so much for the information and your time. I guess it's a Patrick's choice kind of question. Like one is I was curious about the decision maker prompt engineering because I know that can just vary so much from business to business, and was curious if you figured out like whether that really works for you. And the second question was just like order of magnitude around cost of a table like this. Like if I wanted to run this for 5 people, am I investing $1 or 10 or $100 to kind of build this this enrichment out?
Yeah, for sure. I'll answer the second question first because that one's a little easier to go through. When you're doing an RB2B clay table, one like this that has 37 rows, even if you have a couple hundred rows, it's very, very cheap. I mean, you could honestly like, I don't know, it's not a lot of money. I think clay runs on a credit basis, and so the way this works is every one of these columns costs a certain amount of credits. So, for example, this one is 2 credits. Pretty much all the email ones are 2. Everything else, for the most part, is 1 that you're going to be using, 1 credit each, and that's 1 credit per row per column. So if you have 1 column that's 1 credit, and you have 37 rows, you're going to have 37 credits spent there. And so this one obviously spends a lot of credits because we're doing a ton of different integrations. We're doing AI ones, we're doing LinkedIn ones, and each one of these like logo ones costs a credit. So let's say maybe it uses 15 credits per row and we have 37 rows. It's still like you're probably still on the free trial at that point in terms of credit spend. Clay gets expensive when you're sending out high volume. So if you have thousands of people in a table and you're doing this with them, that's when it gets pricey. But I can go to clay.com pricing real quick and you can see like 2,000 credits a month is $149. And I think 2,000 credits per month should more than cover your website visitors for a decent amount of time.
And I want to add something else onto that. So like Taylor, who's going to give the course on what we're doing with clay in a month, he's got this whole thing set up with our website. Strangely, as a result of this LinkedIn thing, we have a ton of traffic, even though the company's young. We are doing part of the enrichment in order for clay to make the determination of whether it's ideal customer profile or not. And then it's doing the rest of the enrichment after it's thrown out 90% of the leads.
Yes, that's exactly what this would do. Usually, like I have it right here, and usually it would be conditionally run. I wanted to show it for all the rows, just so I didn't put it on there. But you could very easily just have all of these rows only run if this is a B2B decision maker, pretty much. So that's a good point. You can use like no credits. You're only reaching out to people you're spending credits on.
Yeah, we get relative to whoever signs up for RB2B. RB2B is on the high end of that, and we're hardly, I think we needed the 349 plan just to make, we're doing something with a webhook or something. It's not like the credits we needed. We like needed a feature that they were gating. I don't really understand, but to avoid paying a lot for credits, that is what you do. You enrich first, narrow it down to the 10 people you want to talk to, and then just do the big enrichment with that.
Yep.
Anything else, Natalie?
Yeah, like on the qualification, it looks like you're doing decision maker and then B2B versus B2C, but I don't see any additional granularity there, like company size or revenue or funding. Like, is that something that's built in here that I'm not seeing? Or
this one's really basic, but honestly, like you can have the AI kind of just do whatever. Like for this one, I really made it simple. I was just like, if they could be a sales or marketing decision maker, tell me they're a decision maker and tell me whether they're B2B or not. And then I give them the company description so that they can read that to determine whether they're B2B. So this is really a baseline, very simple prompt. But prompting for more granular stuff is not that hard. For example, if you wanted to, you could feed it every single job title that you're looking for a decision maker, and it would be able to only extract those. And in short, you can do a lot more than what I'm doing in this prompt. It's pretty basic. Nothing too crazy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Sweet. All right. Next up, we got Johan.
Hello, what up? So
What's up,
I have a
Johan?
question to Airbnb. Like when you get, for example, the 495 plan, then you can use it for more plays, right? Like I can use it for more of my clients, not just one.
So, by the way, we are in the middle of a pricing shift. I've made a LinkedIn post about this, maybe 2. That kind of like that pricing didn't work because the original intention was to give the leads away for free and charge for integrations.
Yeah.
And you can parse the Slack block and do whatever you want with the leads. And we basically couldn't come up with a feature set that like sort of narrowed it was so much free and so little value added in the paid that that's not what's happening anymore. So we're basically going to like cap the credits of the free plan so that 85% of people will be free and top 15% will have to pay just for the credits. And that will include all the additional features. What an option that we will build for people like yourself, which has not been built yet, is like an account sub-account so that you can basically buy a bunch of credits to be used for a year.
All right.
And then apply them to all the sub-accounts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they'll all be on pro, and then at whatever rate you go through these credits, you go through these credits.
Okay, cool. So basically,
give me like a month or 6 weeks on that, right?
Okay.
That's what's coming.
Okay, cool. And when I want to set it up now, for example, for one of my clients, I could have the Clay integration included or not?
I don't know how it's working right now, to be honest. I think for 30 days, it's like the Clay integration works or whatever. But we will have the new pricing before 30 days from now. So
okay.
I will short that to you. And if we don't, I'll just extend your trial another month.
Okay,
So
because I
like,
just sold it to a client today, right? I just sold it. I'm like, let's do it. I don't even know.
No, it's very marketable. I mean, all you have to do is say those words. You just say the words that Patrick titled this session, and they're like,
yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Personalized, multi-channel, fully automated warm app. And it's like, cool, I want that.
It's just magic.
Exactly.
You don't have to say anything else. That's it.
That's why I sold it. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, okay, should I just connect with you directly over LinkedIn then, or like, can I get just when I buy it now from the site? Or I just can do it free, or I mean, what's the plan right now?
When you sign up through the site right now, you have a fully loaded, unlimited plan for 30 days.
Okay.
What I'm telling you anyways, right. What I'm telling you is, if for some reason the new pricing has not been pushed in 30 days, which it will be, I will give you another 30 days to have this.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Just hit me
up. I reach out to you directly over LinkedIn and then.
Yeah. Or just adam@retention.com. It's easier.
Okay. Thank you, Adam.
Yep. I will remember this conversation. Okay. Ryan Kelly.
Appreciate it.
Ryan Kelly, what is up?
Got it. What's up, guys? Question with the sort of chat prompt personalization. I think you can honestly maybe open up the one you were just in for a second, but my question here, you had one where you were working through kind of like the unique value proposition for the company that you would spit out as a variable that would be embedded in the emails. Like, does all of that need to be done within this specific prompt box? Other generative AI bots or tools that I've leveraged, you can kind of create a knowledge base and maybe like reference a knowledge base where you're uploading like a lot more information that could be sort of contained in a prompt box.
Yeah, so far it's just basic ChatGPT for these OpenAI ones. What you can do is provide context here. So this is like the system prompt in the background. So like it's like a base level, like very, very base level training, as well as provide examples. So you can see I have a couple examples of like a company and then the output. But no, like it's not, you can't upload a massive knowledge base and train it on that knowledge base, to my knowledge. There's other AI integrations that I haven't played with very much in Clay. So there's Google Gemini, and then they have Anthropic. Cannot tell you if they do that, but they've got them.
The use case that I'm thinking of, and you tell me if this is possible, but like, let's say we have like dozens of case studies with many different verticals, right? So like the prompt would be something like, figure out what the vertical of the company is and then match it to one of the existing case studies in the knowledge base to reference the successful customer in that vertical.
Yeah, usually I just try to, because I don't think the knowledge base thing works. I usually just throw as much information as the chat box will allow me to without hitting the character limit, and just have it do that. So I would put a summary of every case study in there, see if it hits the character limit. If it does, shorten it. If it doesn't, I think it'll still do a good job as long as you use one of the higher level, like GPT-4os or GPT-4 turbos. I think it'll still work.
Cool. And all this quick follow-up, all this pushes, you can push this into, I know you showed a different tool for prospecting, but Clay integrates with Outreach. Like you could push these to an Outreach
Yeah, I
sequence.
mean, so I believe it natively. Let me see if it natively integrates with Outreach. Even if it doesn't, yeah, it does.
Okay.
And even if it doesn't, let's say you use a tool that isn't natively integratable with the Clay, you can still connect it. Just for anybody who's like wondering, does it have to be native? No, there's like ways to externally connect them with the API integration. So, but yeah, you can do Outreach.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. Forgive me if I butcher this name. Mahesh Kaushik. Am I butchering
Hi,
your
Adam.
name? Or did I say it correctly?
Yeah, it's correct. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, so like my first question is, we have been like focused majorly upon how to personalize the emails and how to cold reach out. So based upon your experience and latestly I have talked few of the sales agency, they are saying that telecalling, from the telecalling purposes, they are getting a more success rate than as compared to these emails. So what's your take on it?
On just cold calling in general?
Uh, so basically, whatever the prospecting they can do from their LinkedIn or the similar thing that we scrape on the clay. So based upon those idea, so what do you think? Like, which has a more success rate to connect or to book a meeting?
So I would say there's definitely methods that you can take, and I'm honestly not sure with that particular one what the effect is, but I will say there's definitely ways that you can convert prospects,
Yeah.
like have a higher
So
chance of converting prospects. But I'd say the automation aspect of this is what makes it appealing, right? That you can just do it with no work.
yeah. So I'm just talking about the like which method is the most efficient way. Like,
So were you referencing cold calling? I'm sorry, were you saying?
yeah, I was asking about the cold calling versus the cold email outreach.
So the
Yeah,
channel,
honestly,
does the cold calling channel work as well? The robo cold calling channel, does that work as well as?
Not the robocall calling, just these SDRs are physically available at the
Yeah.
US or the East
Yeah.
West Coast, something like this.
Okay.
So
I
what?
have an opinion on this, but I'll let Patrick answer it first.
yeah, I mean, I really don't have much of an answer other than cold calling definitely still works. It's just a lot harder to automate, and I'm still a little skeptical on the robocalling. I don't know if it's completely there yet, so I haven't really found a way to automate it well. And so usually we try to enable SDRs to do phone calls, like Clay finds phone numbers, but I haven't done any personal like experience in it. Adam, I'm sure you can provide more context.
So yeah, I have two businesses. One is called retention.com. We sell to large Shopify stores, and you can't call those people. It's culturally unacceptable to make a prospecting phone call to that audience of buyers. It's just not the ethos of their ecosystem. Period, full stop. Everyone's tried it who's a vendor. No one's gotten it to work. The other business I have is RB2B. It's freemium. We don't really use phones to
Got
do
it.
outbound. Anybody who uses RB2B that uses phones in their outbound motion, they come back to me and says, this works great. That's a signal that cold calling still works, right? So I think it's like dependent on the audience that you're prospecting into and whether or not phones are still an effective channel to reach those people. And if they are, totally still works. Doesn't mean it's not getting harder, but it's still working. But I think it's industry by industry, product by product, like, you know,
Got
that
it.
kind of thing.
And like how should be a good sequencing should look like we can start from the LinkedIn, or like if you have give me a basic idea, like there are 7 to 8 cadences and how many touch points should for suppose C-suits or the CMOs and the VP guys, how many touch points we should do, like what should be the based upon you have a massive experience to run this. So like what
Yeah.
should be the at the last stage where we can say that we have extracted all the juice from here and nothing left, so let's just move on to the new prospecting of the other accounts. So
Yeah, so this is what I found works personally. Maybe Adam has, something he can chime in as well. What I found is honestly keeping it short and not doing too many touch points is really effective. So we do four for pretty much all of our sequences. The first email is just personalized first line with some sort of intent signal usually mentioned. Value prop, addressing the problem, obviously, the value prop of the business in a very short way, and then just a great offer. The second email for us is a reiteration of that first angle. So just approaching their problem from a different way or giving them a different way in which our product can solve the problem. And then the third email is just a better offer than the first email's offer, usually with some sort of personalization in the beginning as well. And then the fourth email is just like a breakup. Is there anybody else at the company that is worth reaching out to? So that's what I found works best. So I'm just sticking to it until it doesn't work anymore.
And our teams more or less do something like that, but also mix in LinkedIn outreach.
Yeah.
About the same amount of, touches.
Okay, so okay, got it.
And then they'll recycle, yeah, that's about it.
And one more thing, Patrick, like for you specifically, Clay, like I have witnessed that when we scrap the LinkedIn of a particular person or do the enrichment of those companies, we got the massive scrapping details. So based on that, I have also made many different versions of the personalized angles that we can have. But in most of the cases, I have personally believed like this is an AI generated. This is not like what a person has totally dedicated a time to understand the LinkedIn. It looked like. So have you have some prompt generated based on that, so that the final metrics would not look like so much AI or so much uh, totally AI generated, something like this?
Yeah, so two things. The first thing you can do to make your messages more relevant without having to do any AI personalization at all is segmenting the audience. So I would get your audience, find 3 or 4 different like relevant segments you can write copy on, and then use Clay to break them up. Just have AI segment each one of them. So it could be like, B2B SaaS, like manufacturing, right? Segment them and then write copy that's relevant to each of them. The second thing is make shorter AI snippets. So if you make a 2-sentence AI intro, it's going to sound like AI wrote it. But if you make half of your sentence AI, but it's only the part that's actually relevant to personalize, it'll sound a lot less AI written. So make your AI sentences shorter. And then, again, just segment your audience a bit more. At the end of the day, my absolute ethos on writing emails is that if it sounds like AI wrote it, you're immediately done. That's like I would rather you do no personalization than make it sound like an AI wrote it. And so that is like of the utmost importance. Before you do anything, ensure that your email sounds like it was actually written by a person.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we only have 3 minutes left. I want to say one more thing and then we'll take one question. So like, if you haven't registered for this event, then that is the register page. If you get in Zoom, that's where the questions are going to occur. I'm dropping it in LinkedIn one more time. Thank you very much for coming. To tease what's coming next week, Santosh, if you don't know who he is, he was instrumental. He joined ZoomInfo and Apollo.io when they were stuck at single-digit millions ARR, and now they're both unicorns. And he was instrumental in doing that, and he's worked with 20 other data companies. If you look at his LinkedIn, this is it. You will know why you should listen to this man. And he's going to be talking about the mechanics of exponential growth in software companies next week. And okay, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. We'll take one more question and then I got to bounce in 2 minutes. I don't know where. Okay, so Nils Decker, can you close us with your question?
So Nat briefly asked about how much it actually costs. My question is, do you think that this kind of outreach only works from a certain ACV on, or can I do it? Because so in our situation, we get 60,000 unique visitors to our website per
Is he muting for you
month.
too?
I would be able to put a clay tag with 60,000 lines. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can sort of hear what you're talking about. So basically you're like, this is going to be very expensive for me because we have a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
So what I had said earlier is that we have quite a bit of traffic too. From RB2B, what I've noticed observing everyone's traffic is that sadly, especially the larger your traffic gets, the lower concentration of ICP visitors are in that traffic. So if you use Clay to basically, first of all, we're going to launch an ICP filter in-app very soon. We don't have that yet. We're actually using Clay to determine our ideal customer profile, and we're throwing out everybody else, and we're only enriching. It's literally like single-digit percentages of our visitors that are ICP. However, if it's 60,000 visitors a month, that's still a ton of leads that you weren't getting before. So that's how to do it, avoiding a crazy cost.
How do you create the quickest awareness?
If you look at other people's jobs and lives, you know, these like very public figures, their life seems exhausting to me. Always on the road, speaking, whatever. The reason companies fail is because people